Dangerous toys are the cause of thousands of injuries every year. Whether it be poor manufacturing or just gross negligence, there have been plenty of examples where companies have just wanted to make a quick buck and did not care about the well-being of the child. And in this video, we're going to cover the craziest examples of times where companies have let products out into the open that could be very harmful. So let's get into this. I have so many to cover today. The first little short story that I want to talk about is M&M's jewelry. So at first, you might not actually know that M&M at some point did do jewelry, and they don't really do it so much anymore because of an incident a few years back. What could be wrong with a simple bracelet, especially one made by M&M? And I mean the chocolate, not the wrapper. M&M tends to be awesome. I really like the chocolate, but they really did drop the ball for this one because turns out in their jewelry they released a few years ago, there were high levels of lead. Yes, lead, stuff that is toxic to humans. They had to take it out of pencils because it was too dangerous for kids to have all the time. They had that in their jewelry. They had to recall over 50,000 products back in 2016 and with good cause. Having said that, a lot of people commented in my last video about toys saying that a lot of the time it was down to the parents and the children themselves, not the companies making these toys. And whilst I agree sometimes, in this instance, it is M&M's making jewelry, young children are probably going to put the M&M's in their mouth, and since they contain lead, this could be very, very dangerous. Luckily, in this instance, no one was hurt or died. They were able to snuff it out before it became a massive problem, but there have been several times in the past where things have taken a turn for the worst, and we're going to get into a few of those today. That's just one story of a product that had to be banned. I have so many more banned and recalled toys to tell you guys about later on in this video, such as a toy that could be considered a firearm, a toy that has been outlawed in the UK for public use, and a toy that works as a date rape drug. So please do make sure you keep on watching for that. It's only going to get more crazy from here. We're going to start off with the more tame and maybe light-hearted toys, and as we get further into the video, things are going to get dark, they're going to get crazy, they're only going to get bigger. So let's start off with some more mild banned and recalled toys, and we'll move on from there. And I've also tried to make the toys on this video things that you might not have heard of before. So if you've seen videos that are similar to this before, I really do hope that you might learn some new ones in this one. So I want to talk about slap bracelets first. I really don't know if this is just a cultural thing, but I remember these, despite them being recalled back in the 90s. So this was a really big trend back in the 90s. I'm sure older viewers would know this. What this was is it was a long bracelet and you slapped it on your wrist and it would fold up, perfectly sealing your wrist. This was a massive trend. However, this notoriety became its downfall because a lot of smaller toy manufacturers tried to rip off the success of the slap bracelet with their own, and these would often be shoddily made, and eventually, a lot of the time, the plastic would come off of the slap bracelets, revealing a metal part inside. This has actually happened to me before. I've seen this in works. I don't know if this is just an American thing where it's been banned, but in the UK, I do remember these. Let's just say metal around 8-year-olds and their wrists is not very safe at all. Eventually, many schools across the USA specifically, and also Canada, ban them, and I am really interested because I remember these from my childhood, and this would have been 2007, 8, 9, 10. So here's my question. Are you from the USA and have you heard of the slap bracelet? Are you outside the USA and have you heard of the slap bracelet? I'd be interested to find out if it's just an American thing or a North American thing, or if the slap bracelet eventually came back in the late 2000s. I'd be interested to hear that, so do let me know down in the comments. The swing wing, the hula hoop for your head. This is a really weird looking invention, and I'm kind of glad it didn't catch on because it looks stupid. Now, just by me saying that this is the hula hoop for your head, gears might start turning in your heads and you might realize this is not a good idea. Children swinging their heads around and around is a recipe for disaster. I mean, just look at the advert. There's something just off about gormlessly swinging your head around with this on. This advert definitely belongs to an era of its own, an era that we are too far gone for me to really understand. It goes without saying that the reason that this was eventually banned was because of all of the head and neck injuries that could occur and did occur because people were swinging their heads around without a care in the world. Skyrangers Park radio-controlled aeroplane. The idea was simple. You would turn it on, you would give it a throw, and then you would fly it using the radio controls. This was meant to be no fuss, no hassle, no explosions. That's right, this thing blew up in the sky. As it turns out, the batteries inside the aeroplane were prone to explosions, and so in a cruel twist of fate, every so often when someone was to throw one of these radio-controlled aeroplanes, it would blow up like some sort of weird childhood suicide bombing. 21,000 of these were recalled back in 2007 after the reports of the explosions. And I don't know what it was about the late 2000s era, but as you find out in this video as we go along, there are a lot of toys that were banned from around my childhood and potentially even yours. So you might want to stay tuned just to see which toys were banned. Maybe you own some of them. Hoverboards. Back in 2015, this was the trend of the year. This was the toy trend of 2015, 2016, around there. They were everywhere. But in recent years, their popularity has decreased quite exponentially, and I don't know if I've ever heard anyone ask why. Obviously, trends come and go. This was obviously going to get less popular as time went on. It's a toy at the end of the day, but another one could be the laws surrounding the hoverboard. I can't speak about everywhere in the world, but I know here in the UK, it's actually been made illegal to ride the hoverboard in public areas. You can do it in the confines of your own home, but you cannot go out into the street with a hoverboard. The potential for you messing up and slipping into the road, or you accidentally pushing someone else into the road, is far too high. These things are quite difficult to control. You could end up falling, someone else could end up falling, getting seriously hurt, so they've been outlawed for public use inside the UK. In the US, their legality depends state to state. In Canada, they are legal to my best knowledge, and in Australia, self-balancing scooters which do not meet safety requirements are banned by Product Safety Australia. Additionally, they're also a fire hazard which has been more so swept under the rug compared to their legal status, because did you know that 500,000 of them were recalled just a few years ago after reports of over 100 setting on fire? So these things are not only illegal, but they can also combust at any given moment. So these things are effectively banned, at least for outside use, even though you can use them at home. The Whammo Air Blaster. This is the first gun entry I've featured in this video so far, but do trust me, there are more to come. As explicit in the name, this is merely an air blaster, so why has it been banned? Who could have thought that air would be dangerous? This gun had the ability to hit a target from over 40 feet away. Yeah, it had quite the range, and the adverts were very happy-go-lucky, zany, wacky, oh look, you know, I can knock over that tin can from over there. But really, there was one reason why it was banned, and it is a reason why quite a few of these might be banned. And I don't mean this in a mean way, I was once a child myself, believe it or not. Kids are idiots. It's one thing to test the boundaries of the world in which you live. Kids have to make mistakes, that's how we learn. But children would take these Whammo air blasters, they'd go up to their friends, and they would shoot them in the ears. And this was really bad because they were damaging each other's ears. Therefore, it had to go. Children of the 70s were a real wild bunch. They just loved deafening each other for their pastimes. Turns out air can actually be a very dangerous weapon when wielded incorrectly. So let's move on to my next story for you guys today. We're actually going to take things back earlier than the Whammo Air Blaster. This next one will be the earliest toy I speak about today, and it actually has quite an interesting story to it. So this one dates back to the 1930s, and it is called the Little Lady Stove. In fact, it came out so early it actually predates the Easy Bake Oven. Now, just by looking at this thing, you might understand why this could have been banned, but it wasn't actually banned for the reasons that you think it was. These things worked, and they actually worked surprisingly well for a children's toy. A lot of children suffered burns because of them, but these burns weren't why the toy was banned. It was actually banned because of the era that it was in. Remember, this is the 1930s, and what happened right after the 1930s? The 1940s. And in the 1940s, you need tin and steel to create everything that the army was doing at the time, and guess what also costs a lot of tin and steel to make? The Little Lady Stove. So this one one wasn't so much banned as it was, we need all of this tin and steel, do not make any more ovens for 6-year-olds. Therefore, stranding the little lady stove, they had to stop making them because of it. Flubber. This was the toxic toy that could never be destroyed despite how much people tried. Let me set the scene. It was the 1960s and Hasbro was actually very much ahead of the game because they were making slime back then, and as we all know, kids love slime. They really, really do. Even as a child myself, I also like slime. Everyone does when you're, 10. And Hasbro knew this, and so they made Flubber, which was essentially just a really big ball of slime. Does not stain, non-toxic, harmless. Those 3 things. However, as it was soon to be revealed, it did stain, it was toxic, and it most certainly was not harmless, very much harmful. To cut a long story short, it turned out that Flubber could cause folliculitis. This was a painful inflammation to the hair follicles. Because of this, they had to soon recall it, but Hasbro was not out of the woods yet. Here's my question to you, and do let me know in the comments, how do you get rid of slime? Maybe parents might be better at telling me this. How do you get rid of slime? Hasbro thought they would burn it, but the thing is, if you try and burn this slime, it was toxic. The fumes would have been awful, they would have been so dangerous, so they could not burn it. So legend has it, to get rid of this slime, they couldn't burn it, so they actually buried it underground, allegedly under a car park at one of their businesses or warehouses, perhaps. And therefore, legend has it, this thing was never destroyed and it's out there somewhere, still waiting for the day that it will be recooled, as it were, to the surface world. The toothpick crossbow. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Toothpick crossbow? That sounds incredibly unsafe. I can't believe someone would market this towards children, and...
You are kind of correct, yes. In 2017 in China, there was a trend that children would get these and they'd go out and they would shoot the toothpick crossbow. Here's the thing though, apparently these were incredibly powerful, more powerful than they had any right to be. Apparently from 20 to 60 feet, you could shoot this thing and it would still pierce a tin can. So it was bizarrely powerful, and with great power comes great cause for tragedy, because unfortunately one boy was struck with one of these in the eye and received permanent sight loss. China's state media tried to get as much information on the manufacturers of the toy as possible after finding this out. They wanted to gather information on the, quote, evil-minded manufacturers of the toy, and that's where this story comes to a close. We don't know if they found the manufacturers in the end. Perhaps they got away with it, perhaps they didn't, but either way, one boy suffered permanent sight loss in one eye because of it, which is a very sad note to end on. That's not the end of the video though, we still have plenty more stories, so do continue watching if you want to find out even more. The next toy I'm going to talk about is very interesting to me. It is the Austin Magic pistol. Let me take you back to the 1940s and we'll have a little discussion about what children used to play about back in those days. Back in the 40s, there were no Nintendo Switches, there were no fidget spinners, there were no dice, so children back in those days had to play with literal guns. Now, these guns literally could have been used to defend the USA from foreign invasion if need be, because they were insanely powerful. These Austin Magic pistols could actually potentially be classed as a firearm in modern times. I'm not joking. The pistol used something called magic crystals, which were made from the dangerous compound calcium carbide that would explode when mixed with water. This gun, like most other guns, literally has explosions going on inside, and this was aimed at and marketed to children. These explosions would launch the ball inside very, very far, very high, very fast, actually up to 70 feet. And because of this, the toy was deemed unsafe and was eventually banned because this gun was too good at its job. However, this is when things get interesting, because today this is actually a collector's item. These guns go for up to $1,000 because they're just so rare and vintage. They're discontinued for 60, 70 years now. So they do go for a very high price at auctions. And I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. I'm actually thinking, I've been wanting to do a bit of collecting recently. I want to collect something. Maybe banned and recalled items could be the way to go. This would definitely be one of the first ones I would want to get, a little gun that I could shoot 70 feet away from me. And yeah, I'd be really interested to hear your input down in the comments. I'll tell you something else about myself. When I was a child, I always wanted one of those little electric cars that you would just sit in and it would drive. I only ever got a pedal tractor, which was really fun until I drove it down the stairs, thus eliminating the chance for me to ever get a little electric car that could go much faster. But oh, how I longed for the day that I would get that electric car. The day never came. However, it might have been a good thing because these cars were not only recalled once, but actually twice. These cars were all of the rage back in the 90s, but did you know that in 1991, it was discovered that the contacts in the foot pedal of a kid-sized Porsche 911 could weld together and make it impossible to stop the vehicle. Also, the Porsche 911 does not have anything to do with the terrorist attacks back in 2001. Again, this was the 90s. The name is just coincidental. Either way, driving one of these things would be like a weird sitcom or film scene where one character just can't stop driving. And as zany and wacky as that might be, real world parents decided that was unsafe and dangerous, and so they had to be recalled. Either way, the toy was recalled and then re-released, and it actually did bounce back for a few years until 1998. Once again, these toys were recalled because of a fire hazard. Apparently, some of these cars would literally combust. Like, oh my God. Like that scene in The Grinch where he's driving around that little car and then he's like, "It's gonna blow! It's gonna blow!" Either way, these cars combusted actually quite a lot, as it was later found out. Fisher-Price, the manufacturer of these cars, allegedly received 700 reports of cars overheating and just not working and breaking while the cars and trucks were being ridden, and not even ridden, they were just put down, they were stopped on the floor. Of those 700, 150 were fires reported. 9 children suffered minor burns to the hands, legs, or feet, and up to $300,000 in property damage to 22 houses and garages have been reported. In years since, these cars have been modified and upgraded, so this doesn't happen anymore, but back in the 90s, they were actually quite dangerous. The Plush Uterus. If you've seen any other banned or recalled toys videos, this one often does make the list, and for potentially good reason. I don't really know if I want to get into the entire discussion of whether it is a good idea in the first place. I don't even know, I haven't given it too much thought. But there is something about a plush uterus that is a bit weird. They say that this was marketed towards adults, but it so clearly isn't. The thing has a smiley face on it. I could really see a 4 or 5-year-old not knowing what this is meant to be and just taking it into the supermarket. But having said that, if they don't know what it is there a problem? I don't know, and that's not what you're here to see. You're actually here to see why this thing was banned in the first place. And it's not because of what you think. It wasn't actually banned because it is a uterus. That was fine. The problem came when children might play with this. The ovaries detached and they could eat them and choke on them. So therefore this thing was recalled because it posed a choking hazard to children. So the belt buckle toy gun was meant to be a bit of fun for any child that might have wanted to play cowboy. The idea was that they would swing out their stomach and then the gun would fire off and shoot someone. Fun, harmless, whatever. Except it might have been fun, but harmless is maybe a bit of an overstatement. Really, I don't think it should come as much of a surprise that there were flaws in the design of this. Children are running around all the time, their bodies move in crazy ways. How is the gun always going to know when to fire? A lot of the time it didn't. And sometimes the caps that you would shoot, the bullets of the gun, they were little caps, would actually ignite inside the belt, and this became very dangerous for anyone wearing it. Apparently some children suffered serious burns when using this toy, which is a very big shame. This next one might be the story that you were waiting for all along. I did bring it up at the start. Perhaps for older viewers who were too old for these when they came out, or younger viewers who don't know what this is, I will explain. These are the aquedots. And they were very big in the late 2000s. I actually know what these were. I grew up and I saw adverts for aquedots all over TV, and let's say it's probably quite a good thing that we never got them in my house. These were recalled in 2007 for a very interesting but very, very dark reason, and it all happened after, tragically, an 18-month-old boy digested some of the beads from the toy and fell into a coma. He was airlifted to hospital after he stopped breathing and was having seizures, and while they got him there on time, the child didn't die. He did receive permanent injuries and even brain damage. The question is though, why? Why did he react so badly to consuming the aquadots? Well, to everyone's surprise, at least hopefully everyone's surprise, it turns out that these aquadots were coated with a compound that, when ingested, breaks down into GHB, otherwise known as the date rape drug. The manufacturer of aquadots had, hopefully unknowingly, created a toy which, when ingested, acted like a roofie to children. It would act like a date rape drug to anyone, but of course children would be much more likely to consume the aquadots. It goes without saying that especially young children, such as the boy Ryan, would have had a severely bad reaction to the drug. The US Consumer Product Safety Commission announced a voluntary recall of the estimated 4.2 million units that had been sold after April that year, from anywhere between $17 to $30. However, the manufacturer soon pulled the plug on the toy after 2 other toddlers swallowed the beads that same year, both going into comas but both thankfully surviving. The family of the first boy who swallowed the beads were later awarded $435,000 many years later after that fateful day. The final one that I want to talk about is the most sick, twisted toy of them all. It's the last one on this video for a reason. It is the Bouncy Ball. It's pure evil and it's a menace around the globe. You might sit there and laugh and snicker, but do bear with me, because this seemingly little innocent creation is anything but innocent. Now, it might be quite hard to be physically hurt by a bouncy ball, but many children do swallow these. They are a choking hazard after all. Really, the point of this final entry is that children do swallow everything. You have to be watching them 24/7 because they will eat and they will play with literally anything that comes into their world. Humans are curious by nature. We love to explore, we love to experiment, and when we're children, we love to eat. So you do have to keep an eye on them 24/7 because they will just crawl off and just eat batteries if you don't keep an eye on them. Either way, that is it for me for this video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please do subscribe. I have plenty more videos that are quite similar to this, so I really do hope that you would watch them too. Currently, I am donating £10 to Team Seeds for every 1,000 subscribers I get, and I really want to hit 30k by the end of the year, which is 1,500 off, so please do subscribe. Hit that subscribe button now. Do it, please. I want to thank you to my patrons. They're on the screen right now, and if you would like to get more invested in my community, I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Discord, and again I do have a Patreon that you could join, you could follow, you could support. It would be great. Please do join them. All of the links are in the description. Aside from that, please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, because I'm only 89 videos in and I'm already out of ideas. Thank you for watching.